Hello, everyone. I am Aaron St. Dennis, the FF Mad Scientist, and this is the Mad Science Lab podcast. Today, we're going to get into a little bit of sleepers, breakouts, and busts with Dave Heilman. Dave, thanks as always for joining me. It's great to have you.
And of course, thanks for having me on.
All right. You want to take a quick minute here to tell everyone where they can find you and your work?
Yeah, you can find me personally on all my social media at Dynasty Dorks, one word. And then I work for a sports gambling podcast network. Just had an article come out yesterday. Got another part of that article coming out tomorrow. 16 players that are going to be cut per conference. And then, check us out, SPGN Fantasy Football on YouTube.
Sweet. That's one I'll definitely check out. I'd like to see some of those cuts. Seems like there's a flurry of injuries today. Every time I look down, my phone's got another notification of an injury, a fight, or a suspension.
I already got one right. KJ Hamler was cut the day after I dropped the article, and he's definitely one of my picks.
Yeah. I thought I remembered him coming across my screen earlier saying he was cut. I didn't look at it too much because I was like, it's KJ Hamler. Who cares? So, all right, let's get into it here. We have your first player. Your sleeper is Denver. That's so weird to say. Denver running back Samaje Perine. Fantasy Pros has him projected as RB38. 629 rushing yards and 3.7 touchdowns, 28.4 receptions, 232.4 receiving yards, and 1.5 receiving touchdowns. I was on him early in a lot of early best ball drafts and startup drafts. As we get closer to the start of the season, I've cooled a bit. The only thing that changes, it seems as if they're talking a lot more about Javonte Williams potentially being ready. Not sure if that's the case or if it's just coach speak, but I've got a whole lot of early shares that would like Javonte to miss a few weeks. But what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I think this offense obviously there's nowhere to go but up for one of the worst offenses in football. But you look at Javonte Williams and his injury and how late his injury happened, as well as this was a multi-ligament injury similar to J.K. Dobbins. So to expect Javonte Williams to come in and get a full workload and to be ready to go week one, I think is unrealistic. And until they sign somebody else, Samaje Perine is in line. And even if Javonte Williams does get let's say the majority of the work in this offense, looking at Mike Clay's projections in June said that actually Perine was going to get more work than Javonte Williams. He's flip-flopped a little bit, but currently his projections are for Javonte Williams to play 13 games and for Perine to play 14. He takes a little bit off for injury risk. He's giving similar as far as the yardage, but 672 with 5 touchdowns. And then as far as passing production, 29 receptions, 215 yards, and 1 touchdown for a PPR RB34 finish for Perine. And I just go back to Sean Payton. In 11 of his 15 seasons as offensive coordinator, those offenses were top 10. In 6 of those top 10 finishes, they were number 1 overall. And so Sean Payton came into the Denver Broncos. He said, I obviously have to fix the quarterback, but we need to fix the offensive line, which was one of the worst in the NFL last year. They had a bunch of injuries, but also a bunch of bad players. So what did they do? They got rid of the bad players. They brought in some new ones, and they invested very heavily. Ben Powers, very, very good guard from Baltimore. They added Mike McGlinchey to solidify the right side of that line. And Samaje Perine, I love the fact that he's got a passing skill set. And you go back to any of Sean Payton's offenses, you're looking at someone that uses 2 running backs. We've seen Alvin Kamara and Mark Ingram be both top 12 running backs. I don't think 2 top 12 running backs out of this offense, but 2 top 24 running backs, that's in the cards. And I think you're going to see that quite a bit. They're going to protect Russ, a lot of running and a lot of play action.
Yeah, that's what my point was going to be. even if Javonte is healthy and he is back for week 1, I think it's going to be a slow ramp up to his workload, kind of like we've seen with Dobbins. But more importantly, like you said, Peyton, I'm a Saints fan. All those years with the Saints, it was a two-headed backfield. There was no, unless there was severe injury, there was no just one guy doing it all. Kamara, I know he finished great for fantasy managers, so everyone thinks he was just the bell cow and did everything. That wasn't true. Like, you had plenty of times. I remember drafting, like you said, Mark Ingram. Who else did they have? Pierre Thomas. They had a whole bunch
CJ Spiller, Darren Sproles. They've targeted the running back over 125 times every year with Sean Payton. This is the team that will lead the league in screens. They're not just little dump offs because the quarterback has is an older quarterback and wants to dump it off. These are designed plays to the running back to get the ball, and Sean Payton's offense has always had that as a staple.
Well, it's similar to the Breeze situation, because you're right, though. Russ is getting up there in age, so I think there's going to be a ton of design screens because that's what he did with Breeze. But there are also going to be a ton of impromptu dump-offs. So you add it in, and you're right. It could be easily a career high in targets for Perine, or Pirine, whatever the hell you want to pronounce it, and just as many for Javonte if he's healthy. So it could be an interesting year for the Denver running backs, that's for sure. He's going RB38 on Fantasy Pros right now, 101 overall in an interesting range. He seems to have hit the range right around 32, right after Cook and Dillon, where we get into basically the group of running backs nobody wants. Brian Robinson, Antonio Gibson, Jamal Williams, Penny, Khalil Herbert, Zach Charbonnet, Damien. Like, there's nobody really exciting here. You've got Devon Achane, who's probably in a 3-headed committee. Tyler Algier, like, he seems to be the only one who has a chance to be a legit starter out of this group, with the exception of Rashad Penny, but there's injury concerns there. So what do you think of this range here in the late double digits, early triples?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know about you, but like, I'm sick of the whole like AJ Dillon's gonna be the guy, and like Rashad Penny, is he gonna stay healthy, and what's that gonna look like? Like, yeah, like I think Herbert is someone that has very potential, like very similar as far as potential, and Khalil Herbert is actually slated to be the starter as of now, and so but Gibson and Robinson, like, I don't know what that's going to look like. And I know that like people want to say this is what they did in Kansas City, so that's going to be Jerick McKinnon and Isaiah Pacheco. I don't know what it's going to look like. All I know is last offseason, it was very apparent that Ron Rivera and the boys hate Antonio Gibson.
Yeah, they do.
So,
They do.
And P-Ron, he's never had a full workload. So I thought that this would be a good spot for like Kareem Hunt or someone like that to go over there. But if nobody goes over there, I just think P-Ron is he's a good value. And the upside is just tremendous as the team tries to get, Javonte Williams back to health.
Yeah, I don't even think he necessarily gets a full workload. It's just whether Javonte misses time or not, he's not going to be able to take 100% of the carries. And if he does, he's going to go down again and he's going to be inefficient. So at running back 38 and 101 overall, I can't see how he's not at least a usable flex, which is more than returning value on his ADP. So I agree 100%. And if you get best case scenario, you might end up with a long stretch like with J.K. Dobbins last year, where he's just out. And if they don't bring anyone in, you might have I don't want to say league winner, but you might have a Madison type situation where he's the starter for a significant stretch and he's posting, top 5, top 10 numbers. So the ceiling's there. That will transition us into your breakout, the aforementioned Minnesota running back Alexander Madison. Fantasy Pros has him at RB 18. 946.8 rushing yards, 8 rushing touchdowns, 32 receptions, 219.3 receiving yards, and 1.6 receiving touchdowns. What is it that makes him your breakout? Dave, you're muted.
Based on what he's done previously, I think it's easy for him to beat those marks. But you're looking as a breakout, you're looking for somebody that can finish as a running back, top 24 in the position, and have over 1,000 yards offense. And I think that's easily in the cards. It's what they have him projected for. Anytime that he's had over 10 touches, that's 8 games where Dalvin Cook was out, he had 18.5 points in half PPR, 20 points in PPR. He had 4.5 targets every game, and he had over 100 total yards every game. I know that's a very small sample size, but this guy has shown that he can do it versus some of these guys that we haven't even seen touch the field yet. And he's just 25 years old. This isn't a 28-year-old, 29-year-old running back. He's got third-round draft capital, and he's on a very good offense. This was a great offense last year, and Dalvin Cook was great. So even if he's a little less than Dalvin Cook, let's say he's 80% of Dalvin Cook, he's going to be really good and a really solid RB2 and offers you RB1 upside. And I'll say this for everybody that's trying to be the contrarian, maybe you're going to get it right if you go after, Ngagwe or Ty Chandler or Dwayne McBride. But Alexander Mattison got a good contract, and every time that Cook missed time, he got 70% of the workload. The team believes in Mattison. They signed him to a free agent deal, and all the tea leaves say that Alexander Madison's going to be the starter, and you're getting him as, a bottom-end RB2.
Yeah,
and he could be a bottom-end RB1.
Yeah, he's going on Fantasy Pros as RB23, 57th overall. He's kind of in a weird range where you have some guys who still have some talent. It's like the low end of the remaining starting running backs. You've got all the way from Dobbins, Pierce, Sanders, Dalvin Cook, where I'm not sure why his ADP is holding so strong. Cam Akers, then you've got under him, you've got Connor, Swift, Rashad White, Pacheco, and Javonte. So it's an interesting spot here in the draft. What do you think about him, in relation to the guys around him?
Yeah, I mean, James Conner is going to be on one of the worst offenses in football, and everyone thinks he's going to get like all of this volume. He might, but let's not forget this is a totally new offense. This is not Cliff Kingsbury, and this is a rebuilding team that's going to want to know what they have in some of these younger players. But they also are probably not going to have Kyler Murray for half the year. He's going to be looking at 8-man boxes, and everyone's going to be teeing off on him. I don't know if he can stay healthy. Cam Akers, it's been a love roller coaster with Sean McVay. Sean McVay tried everything he could. He started all sorts of players last year trying to, get rid of Akers, and Akers just stuck around. And so, Akers is someone I'm okay with. I think this is an appropriate range for him. But I just feel more comfortable. And at the end of the day, you want players on good offenses. I don't know where Dalvin Cook is going to play, and we'll just put him on the Jets with Breece Hall. I'll take Alexander Mattison. Gross. The Rams are going to be a bad offense. You got the Carolina Panthers going to be a bad offense. The Houston Texans are going to be a bad offense. I'm going to move him up a little bit. I think I have him at RB 16 or 15. And you're getting him. What do you get him? Was that RB 23?
23. So the ones you've got, I'll tell you. You just tell me if you're comfortable moving him ahead of them. Cam Akers.
Yes.
Dalvin Cook.
Unless he goes to Miami, yes.
Miles Sanders.
About the same range. Yeah.
Dameon Pierce. So this is the range you have him, somewhere between 16 and 20, you think?
Yeah, I have him right there. I think I'm at 16.
Okay. All righty. Yeah, it's a tough one for me. I don't really know what to make of him. Like you said, there's so many questions with some of these other guys here. James Conner, bad team. Who knows with Kyler? Tampa Bay, bad offense. Kamara, suspension probably. Javonte, injury. Swift, injury. Who knows if he's the bell cow? Akers is in the doghouse. Cook, who knows? So it's really a tough range where I guess he's the only one with potential, with league-winning potential in that range where if you hit, it's free money. And if you miss, he's not going at a price where he's, too detrimental to your team. Unlike your final guy, your bust, the guy I own 0 of, one of the few guys I own 0 of across 60 leagues, San Francisco wide receiver Deebo Samuel. Current rank, projected rank, wide receiver 16, 258.8 rushing yards, 2.5 rushing touchdowns. 70.9 receptions for 902.1 yards and 3.9 receiving touchdowns. Why are you out on Deebo?
Yeah, I mean, if you look at Deebo's career, he's given you a lot more bust fantasy weeks than he's given you good fantasy weeks as his entirety. I know everyone saw that stretch at the end of the season 2 years ago and in the playoffs. Since then, they're not using him the same way. He's not being used as a running back. They got Christian McCaffrey and Elijah Mitchell. That just zaps his value right there. And just specifically as a receiver, he's just not even close to guys that are at the same range that you can get much cheaper. If you're talking about like getting, like, I'll take Brandon Ayuk over him. But you're talking about.
I was just bringing it up because I was going to say I was queuing it up. That was my point. Wide receiver 16 at the top, Debo. Look all the way down here. Wide receiver 29, 30 picks later. His teammate who outscored him, Brandon Ayuk. So good call.
Yeah, I mean, there's just like he is someone that you will see the experts have a lot higher than what the ADP will have because people will see the name and they saw him play really, really good 2 years ago. And he's got a cool name and he's a cool player. And I think he's a great football player. But for fantasy purposes, you're going to want someone that you can put in a lineup and consistently play. And if he's your wide receiver 1 or 2, you are not getting consistent production every week. And really, like, you're not even getting that high-end production. And especially with Christian McCaffrey there, I think that he's third or fourth when you consider Christian McCaffrey, Brandon Ayuk, and George Kittle on his own offense. And it's not even like an offense that throws the ball a lot. They run the ball and have a lot of short yardage. So, I'm out. You can get a lot better players at that price point, or you can get the same production at a much cheaper value.
I feel like we're stuck in 2021. Debo had one great Swiss Army knife-like season on a contract year, got his money, and has done nothing since. And that year we had Brandon Ayuk stuck in Shanahan's doghouse, and we've never let him live it down since then. And we're still just stuck on Debo, despite the fact that Ayuk has been better. And when the games where Purdy was in and all the players, I don't know how many there were, where they had all 4 of their weapons with Purdy, Debo was the one who was hurt the most out of all 4 big weapons.
Yeah, like you could literally flip-flop these guys. Like I'm taking Cooper, Allen, Ridley, Hopkins. I'm not necessarily as high on, or McLaurin, but DJ Moore I'm taking over him. Christian Watson, Jerry Jeudy, Mike Williams. That's touch or go. I'll take Chris Godwin over him.
You're right, though. Like I've done this exercise before in a previous podcast, and you can scroll down and probably go from 16 and all the way to 33 or 34. There's only 1 or 2 guys you wouldn't take over him, which is how overvalued he is.
Give me Marquise Brown. Give me Deontay Johnson.
Yeah. You just keep going. Why is he up so high? I don't get it. 16.
And so this right here is ADP. Is that correct?
Yeah, this is ADP for Fantasy Pros.
Yeah. And so, again, a lot of this has to do with, just there's ADP is a wide variety, and you have your casual fans that, like they're in their family leagues or their work leagues, and they don't necessarily pay attention to football all year. You have people that are like really into fantasy football, but only in August. And then you have people, like us that play Dynasty and are into it all. So you're getting a wide variety. I'm sure there's some people that are drafting Debo more like wide receiver 30.
Yeah.
But there's also, if this is the average, that means some people are drafting him at wide receiver 10.
I think it's a case of
California.
Like you said, it's going to be inexperienced leagues where they just get there and you get on the top name on the board is Debo, and it sits there for 3 rounds. And finally someone says, well, Debo's been the best player on the board for 15 or 20 picks. Maybe I should take him. And they think they're getting a steal. And then they're like, oh, that's why everyone passed on him. So.
Yeah. I mean, I don't have the numbers right in front of me, but I know he busted more than he had. He was a wide receiver 3 or worse. More than he was a wide receiver 1 last season.
Absolutely. Well, that concludes Sleepers, Breakouts, and Busts with Dave Heilman. Dave, thanks again for joining me. You want to take another chance here? Tell us all where we can find you.
Yeah, at Dynasty Dorks on social media, TikTok and Twitter or X, whatever it is these days. And
Jesus Christ.
SPGN Fantasy on YouTube. Check us out.
All right, sounds good. I will see you at the FF Expo in a couple of weeks. This has been Sleepers, Breakouts, and Busts with Dave Heilman. As I said, once again, I am Aaron St. Dennis, the FF Mad Scientist, and this has been the Mad Science Lab podcast. Thanks again for joining me, Dave, and thank you all for tuning in. Take care, everyone, and have a good night.
Good.